Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is Air Gunner's Edge. Uh, by request from a few people, actually, I'm just going to show you the installation of the HUMA regulator. They do have videos and they do have instructions when you do buy this, and this is going to be for this regulator only. I'm just going to show you real fast here. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I'll show you just how I installed it as per instructed by HUMA. But they give you very good instructions. I mean, very hard to miss. They even have a video where you can click on. But these come with it when you order it. So I can't exactly show you how to mark it since it is not in the gun, but I will just go do a quick brief overview on how I did this. For this gun, it's pretty much the same for the AT-44. Okay. I already know the drop block. This is the top, and it drops this down. So I know this is the top of the tubing, the air tube. What I like to do is usually there's something here. I'll put a piece of tape here and a piece of tape on the side. So that way you can measure over and you will know exactly where the top is. This is actually off a little because this was turned. So I have actually two inlets that's being turned here. So anyways, just to make it easier, I'm going to remove this tube. And I'll show you how I did it. There's two ways to do this. I tried the first way by leaving the valve loose. Unfortunately, it did leak air, and when I went to remove it, you guessed it, this stayed in the gun and the tube came off of here. Pain in the ass. So I chose to notch out the or V out the threads for ventilation and breathing purposes of the valves to work properly. Oh, that was my knuckle that just cracked. Okay. Gun is much easier after you take it apart for the first time. So I can do this all by hand. Okay, so we're just going to pretend I never touched this. Once you take this off, this O-ring sits right in here. And this is the one thing I do love about this regulator. I've never used a lane regulator where you have to drill a hole in the tube, but I do not wish to drill a hole in the tube. If I ever choose to take out the valve, I can put this back on and run it completely without the regulator. Once you do the lane regulator, you have to keep the regulator in, otherwise you have a hole in your tube. So not fond of drilling holes into a high compression tube. Personal preference, and everyone says it's a great regulator. Absolutely believe them. Just not what I want to do. Okay. So I already have it marked with the tube. That. Okay. So this is my top of my tube. What I did, and you'll see if my phone focuses. You take a triangle file without damaging right here. You have to be very careful. I always take it, put it there, and then go down, go down, go down. I don't go back and forth so I don't accidentally hit this and damage it. So that's all I do. Take the file. This isn't the file I use, but I just go downstrokes. Get it there, downstrokes. It takes a little bit. You will get there. So now, as far as this, trying to look for it. There it is. Taking these out are a little more different. They can be a pain in the butt. Sometimes I add air to the tube, just a little air, usually with a hand pump, not a compressed tank or a compressor. Okay, so this is my top. And also, you put a little notch. See that little on the white spot there? You need to notch that so it can vent out. Not much, just enough for the air to breathe, as HUMA recommends or states. Okay, when you go to put this in, and you must use regular pure silicone. This is just some I have laying around because I just took this out. I just like it. They tell you to actually put it in the tube, which is fine. I just like to make sure it does have some on there. What I actually had to do, this was not perfect, so I did have to take this out. I have a piece of marble. I took some sandpaper, and I made sure this surface is absolutely straight. Otherwise, this O-ring will leak on here, and then you will have to start the whole process over again. This is the AIRMAX. What I did actually have to do when I had to take this out, because this regulator, this O-ring, would not fit over this spring for the poppet valve. So I took it out. I actually put it on a drill. I'm not going to recommend you do that. You do whatever you have to do to make this diameter a little smaller. But as you can see, it fits perfect now. It would not fit perfect before, but now it does. And there was one sharp edge of piece of plastic that was sticking over, so I decreased the diameter of this just enough so it would fit over, and it's perfect. When you reinstall this, and you have to have your tube marked, and I know which way it is, there is, as soon as I can find it, this little hole has to be facing up. So there is my up mark, and there is the hole. So I will put that, this end first. Here's my hole, there's my notch, there's my top mark, and I will slide it in. Before I do that, I'm going to just show you, and this is per recommendations of HUMA, or HUMA. I've been hearing everyone call it something different anyways. And like I said, I have my mark set at 150. Come on. Well, what I did was I went to 160, and then I backed it down 10 to 150 per recommendation of HUMA. So that's what I did. I'm at 150 with this. So easy install. This obviously goes this way. So there's my hole. I'm going to gently, and take your time and watch the threads. Make sure you do have enough silicone on there. Don't overdo it, but make sure you have enough. Just got to sneak it by. Get it in there. That's okay. I just take the O-ring out for now. Slide it in just enough so you can see that your valve is going to catch those threads and start. You can go even a little bit more, making sure this O-ring is in there and it is seated properly. But there's plenty of videos on here. Someone just asked, a couple people asked me, so I'm just doing it. This is pretty much the same, even though there isn't any recommendations on the AIRMAX. So I'm sure I'm not the first person to put a regulator in this gun. I highly doubt it. Then make sure this is the right valve for this. This is. And actually, before I get too far, I'm just going to make sure I did get a good enough groove in there. Because it does look actually a little shallower than my AT-44. I just don't want to do this again, so actually I'm kind of glad. And I actually was going to change the setting on this, but I think 150 is going to be good for now. I can always go back in it later. Now I know how the gun comes apart, so it won't be an issue. Ah. Okay. What I'm going to do is actually, if I can find it, and I just had it here last night. There we go. This actually, it's a half moon, but it does work just as good. Just making sure you do not hit that seat. And I just pull down. Some people use a little die grinder. Whatever you're comfortable with, and you know you won't mess it up. So that's all that counts. Might take me 5 minutes to do. If it takes you 15 or 20, doesn't matter, as long as you do not mess it up. So if it takes you half an hour and you don't mess it up, that's what you call success. Okay, so I did that. In the instructions, though, they tell you to check everything, make sure there's no dirt. I had this all cleaned out. I just did that. I'm gonna just run a rag over it, just to make sure there's no parts. You do not want any dirt, anything else, contaminants in here, because if it gets in here, it will mess up your valve and it will be leaking. So and when I line this back up, my marks will be lined up, and that V will line up with that notch. If you can see. Okay. Now I feel it going against the regulator. And I can check. The regulator is not spinning. That silicone on the O-ring helps, just so it glides against there. It's just pushing it in a little further. And this is all I do for tightening. And I'd never have any issue. But now my mark is lined back up where I did the paint pen. You're never going to see it because it's going to be underneath the barrel anyways. So I like to leave that there anyways. You can clean it off if you want, no big deal. Okay, so that's pretty much it. And my HUMA regulator is installed. There's a few other things in the instructions, so I advise you to read the instructions first, maybe a couple times, and then watch a video. Just just get familiar with it. Familiarize yourself. There we go. That's what I was trying to say. But before I put this back, I'm going to put a little silicone on here. Actually, the factory silicone is still there. It's pretty good. It's not dry. I'll just let you guys, if you can see, take a look inside. Okay. Anyways, like I said, they have instructions. They have videos. There's other videos out there. It's not really that difficult. But if you're like me, sometimes I'll read the instructions and go, well, what do they exactly mean? And once I watch a video, I'm like, oh, crap, that was easy. No problem. Now I totally understand. Okay. And see, that must have been turned a little. I mean, it's pretty close to 90. I mean, almost straight up. I won't have an issue with this. I'm not worried about it. But of course, try to do what they say and get it lined up. Okay, so that's pretty much the HUMA regulator install on the Hatsan AIRMAX. That'll be the same 177, 22, and 25. It'll be the same for the bullpup. It'll be the same for the AT44. Like I said, when you have your mark there, and if you want to do it the other way, go for it. I didn't like it. They tell you to back this off so you can get a paper thin, and the air is supposed to go through all those threads. But like I said, mine leaked out. This was stuck in the gun. The tube came out. Didn't like it. And it was actually my fault because I did not clean this surface up here first. So therefore, there was a mark there. Bad machining, actually, the grooves, and it would not seal. So this you just grab. I think they changed this over, so unless you have an earlier AT44, you won't have this. And this, just grab it with a pair of vice grip pliers, whatever, something to hold you steady, and just twist it and it comes out. Just be gentle. It's plastic. Okay, so I hope that helps anyone out and who was asking. And there we go. Plenty of information. I just thought I'd do this for him. I knew it was going to be, well, actually it's a 15-minute video, so it took a little longer than I actually planned, but now you have the information, and there's plenty other videos to watch. Okay, so this is Air Gunner's Edge. Gonna sign off now. Good shooting for everyone. I'm gonna jump back on the AIRMAX before my daughter gets home and see if I can get a little more done. I'm not gonna keep going through the whole reversal process of putting it back in. It's pretty simple. I mean, this is all back in. I'm ready to attach this back to the receiver. I took this off last night, cleaned it out. Anti-knock right here. I don't know why people were having issues with this. I saw nothing wrong with mine, so I checked it out. So I don't know. Maybe there was a fault and they did say it was a 22. He ordered 2 of them from GTA and they both had the same issue. He said Hatsan sent him another part. I don't know exactly, but I checked mine. Mine was working fine before when I was shooting it, so unless I have another issue, then I'll come back in here, find out, and let everyone else know. But mine was beautiful, no complaints. Okay, and that's it for today, and I want to get this thing back together. So after I get that all back together, barrel back on, then I'm going to start on the cocking mechanism. I want to snug that up a little, and the trigger. So hopefully I'll be able to shoot this weekend. We'll see how everything goes. Okay, good night, good shooting. Air Gunner's Edge out.